Shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manupistam Sthapanam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakaramayam Dadati Swabantikam Namam Vishnupada Kushabhasa Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachaine Nirvishisha Shrunyavari Pasatari Satarine Vanshakapati Vasa Kripa Sinivevaja Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Go Bhaktavanna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
We are very pleased to welcome Her Grace Devaki Mataji, who is a disciple of His Holiness Niranjan Swami Maharaj. Mataji was born in Germany in year 1958. In 1985, Mataji joined the Brahmacharini Ashram in ISKCON, Sydney, Australia. Mataji preached in Riga, Latvia, and helped to pioneer the first more organized temple in the former Soviet Union. Since 1999, Mataji serves as a renounced traveling preacher, spending 6 months in India and Bangladesh and other 6 months in other countries like Western Europe, Ukraine, Moldova, USA, Canada, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. In Ukraine, Mataji spent 18 years spreading the culture of care. Mataji established the Institute for Spiritual Culture in year 2014, Hare Krishna, offering insightful education in Vaishnav life. For several years, Mataji was a member of GBC Committee for Devotee Care. Mataji has helped establish Bhakti Sangam festivals in various countries, conducts holy name retreats, conducts seminars, and conducts IYF student preaching seminars as well. Mataji is spreading this wisdom worldwide through her books, which are presented here. Spiritual Culture, Sheltering Relationships, The False Ego, Entering the Grihastha Ashram, Family Life as an Ashram, and now the Vanaprastha Ashram. Today she is speaking on the topic Meeting Death with Joy. So we are highly privileged and we are honored to introduce her, and we welcome her with loud chanting of one Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Those who will need translation in Marathi can, on Mataji's side, one volunteer will be there at the back side. On Prabhuji's side, one volunteer there will be on the back side. मराठीमध्ये ज्यांना भाषांतर हवं आहे त्यांच्यासाठी मागे भाषांतराची व्यवस्था केली आहे माताजींच्या साईडला आणि प्रभुजींच्या साईडला. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna. So first of all, let me express my joy, and it's a great honor for me to visit you here. You have a very beautiful temple, such a nice and lively congregation. So I can see there's so much potential to really develop the spiritual world here. That's what a temple is meant to be like, actually. I would like to share some little points to this little introduction of my humble self. That for the last 25 years I have been very involved in Bangladesh. Bangladesh, very special place. It's the place where most of Mahaprabhu's associates come from. Even Advaitacharya, Srivas Thakur, even Mahaprabhu's parents, Mukunda Datta, Vasudev Datta, Srivas Thakur, they all come from East Bengal, which is now Bangladesh. And somehow our Vaishnava culture has really been preserved there, so much more than in India. So when I travel there, it's like entering Chaitanya Charitamrita. The whole culture is still going. And over 25 years of spending every year some considerable time there, I received a whole transformation. I received so many insights how actually Prabhupada's gift he gave us, how we are meant to live that. Yeah, the beauty and sweetness of Vaishnava culture. So, and that has inspired me to establish a little institute for spiritual culture. And I'm based in Mayapur. Mayapur is the only place where I spent more than 1 week. Everywhere else, I'm just 1 week in each place. So Mayapur, I'm 3 months. And during the January, I offer all different courses there. I brought a course schedule with me, just in case somebody's interested. Also, we have a holy name retreat in Ekachakra, 24th to 28th of December. Very powerful and sweet and deep experience. I take my audience on a whole journey, getting deeper understandings about chanting in Japa and in Kirtan. Who of you has been to Ekachakra? Well, not so many. So, you have to come? No excuse. Nityananda is inviting you to get his mercy. Yeah. All you have to do is register on my website and be in time in Mayapur. I arrange a bus going from Mayapur to Ekachakra, accommodation, prasadam, everything. Yeah. So, yeah, and these courses I'm offering in Mayapur, I'm putting them now in book form. So each book you see there is actually a 15-hour course. Can you see these books from there? It's not so nicely arranged. Anyway, yeah. So each book is a 15-hour course. So many devotees, they use them as books for training their congregation. All you have to do is read 1-2 chapters, take some notes. All quotes of Prabhupada are there. It's all based on Prabhupada. See, because Prabhupada was always saying his books are the law books for civilized humanity for the next 10,000 years. But often the law books are rather complex, and people often don't understand how to live according to the law. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make Prabhupada's teachings practically accessible to people, how to actually live it in their daily life. Good example is Vanaprastha Ashram. Bhagavatam is full of very clear statements, and yet, where is it? It's not established. I call it the forgotten ashram. Nobody has a clear idea what it's all about. Nobody plans for it, nobody meditates for it, nobody talks about it, there's no seminars. This is the first book on the Vanaprastha Ashram available in ISKCON. Yeah. Even though the Bhagavatam is full of very clear statements, but yet people don't understand, hey, I'm 50, I'm 55, I should move on to the Vanaprastha Ashram, you know? So, yeah, that's why I realized we need some complementary literature to Prabhupada's books in order to help us to understand how to live accordingly, how to apply that deep wisdom Prabhupada has given us. So at the end of our little session here, I will mention something about each book, and we have a table here, And if anybody of you would like to get some, you can come up to me immediately after the program. Okay, so let us move on to our topic of death, meeting death with joy. That's actually the subtitle of the Vanaprastha Ashram book. There's a whole chapter on death, so much more than what we can discuss in 1 hour. See, because all my topics are rather deep. So in 1 hour, how much can you give? You can just introduce it. You know, so usually people arrange 2.5 hour seminars for me to really get deeper into the topics, you know. So next time when I come, that's what we can do, you know. Your Prasadam Hall is a good place for seminars. Yes, yeah, we had a vibrant program there yesterday, you know. So next time I come, if you want me to come back, we can do every evening, 6:30 to 8:30, a dynamic topic there, just to nourish our Bhakti Lata. See, I'm in the boiling the milk mood. That's my mood. Not so much, you know, big 400 people who are not cultivated, who are not practicing. That's not my audience. My audience is the seriously practicing devotees, to give them something deeper. That's my specialty. And I've got a whole list of so many good topics. Yes. So next time we make some arrangements that we can present them, you know. Yeah. So yeah, let's go to death. I dare say this topic is relevant for all of us, right? Yes, yes. Death is the only thing in life which is 100% sure, right? Everything else, we don't know. Maybe it will happen, maybe it will not happen, but death, 100% it will happen. Each and every one who is sitting here, 100%. And we don't know when it is happening. It can happen at any time, you know. We like to keep ourselves in this illusion, especially when we are young. We think, oh, yeah, death, not now, not for me, you know. Yeah. But at any time, death can knock on our door, yes. We really like to sweep this topic under the carpet, pretending it will not happen to us, right? That's why Yamaraj was asking Yudhishthira Maharaj, what is the most amazing thing in this world? And that was his answer. Most amazing thing is that we are surrounded by death every day. And yet, you know, we think it will never happen to us. That is the most amazing thing. And actually, before I met ISKCON, I was working in the medical field. And this was always a topic which really intrigued me. What is happening there? Because I saw people just dying right in front of me. And I was wondering, what is taking place there? What's happening afterwards? How can we prepare? And nobody could give me an answer. And then I gave up my work, my whole professional career, even though I made good money. I gave it all up, gave everything away, sold everything, all my medical books. I knew I would not come back to this life. And I traveled the whole world. I'm from Germany originally. So I traveled the whole world looking for the medicine that gives real happiness. And then finally in Australia, I had to go all the way to Australia from Germany. It's a pretty long way. And finally there I met ISKCON. And second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, or the summary, so many powerful verses there. And then I realized, within 1 week, I realized, that's it. That's what I was looking for. Immediately I moved into the ladies' ashram after 1 week. Yeah. And I never went back to my medical work, not a single day. I spent 40 years full-time in ISKCON. giving all my time and energy for ISKCON. See, now I'm doing rehabilitation for the soul. Yes, I was working in rehabilitation. So, body, the perfect, the final solution to all disease is no more material body, right? That's the final solution, yeah. So I like to concentrate on that solution. Yes. Yes. So now, let us understand a devotee, non-devotee, they have very different approaches to this topic of death. For a non-devotee, it is the most horrifying, most unwanted moment that should be avoided by hook or by crook, right? People are so much in fear. Fear is always a sign of ignorance. When we don't know, then we are fearful. But devotee, actually for devotee, death is that glorious moment when we can finally go back home, back to Godhead. Right? Yes, yes. Krishna has been waiting for us for so many lifetimes. Now is the chance to go. So why staying here a little bit longer, a little bit longer? Now, when it's time to go, let's go. Right? Yes, and it's actually a very glorious moment. As we get a little older, we almost start looking forward to it, to get out of this world, my God, you know. But we will only look forward to it as our relationship with Krishna has been more and more established. And that happens through the chanting. But we have to know how to chant. Whole big science. That's why I'm giving the Holy Name Retreat in Ego Chakra. There we will get some insights. We may even realize, sometimes I have Prabhupada disciples there, and at the final sharing they say, my God, after this retreat, I realize I haven't even started chanting the Holy Name yet. I have been doing something else all these 45, 50 years. Just blabbering something down, was not even chanting the Holy Name. So it's a very deep science, how to actually chant. And saying that doesn't mean that I have perfected it. No, not at all. But I'm endeavoring, and I'm living from Holy Name Retreat to Holy Name Retreat, just to polish up my chanting habits. Yes. And as we really mindfully turn to Krishna, feelingly call out to Him helplessly, longing for the relationship, that's how we are meant to chant. And as we chant like that, the relationship will become tangible reality. Yeah? Because good to remember, at the moment of death, all these things which are now so important to us, at the moment of death, no significance whatsoever. Curtain closes, show is over. Yeah. Prabhupada gives this nice analogy, saying life in the material world is like a nonsensical stage performance. That's exactly what it is. And at the moment of death, the crazy circus finishes, it's all over. And the only thing we are allowed to keep at the moment of death is my relationship with Krishna. Because that's eternal reality. Yeah. We can say there's two kinds of realities. There is the nonsensical stage performance, which we usually think to be reality, right? We think that's reality, my job, my house, my family, paying off my mortgage, this, that. We think that is reality. But no, it's a very temporary, flickering, nonsensical stage performance. And actual reality is my relationship with Krishna, what's happening in the spiritual world. That's reality. Yes. So Krishna consciousness is meant to bring about a whole transformation of our perception of reality. Right? Yes. In the beginning, we think the nonsensical stage performance is reality. But then as we seriously practice, as we really feelingly call out to Krishna when we chant, and not just on the counter, that's not chanting. Yeah. So as we deeply chant, we will realize something is happening in our relationship with Krishna. It is becoming more tangible reality. And then we will be quite happy to get out of here and finally join Krishna. Yes. Yeah. See, the fact that we are so fearful of death shows that our relationship with Krishna is practically not established. That's the essence, But as the relationship is more deeply established, we proportionally will lose our fear of death. Yeah. Yeah, so interesting to understand. Actually, we know, Bhagavad Gita 8.5, Antakale Chabameva Asman Bhuktvakalevaram. So, Krishna says, if you remember me alone, then you will reach my abode of this. There's no doubt. So he's saying Krishna alone, me alone. He's not saying, if you remember me and your husband, your wife, your kids, your grandkids, your dog, your cat, whatever. No, he's not saying that. He's saying me alone. And to remember Krishna alone is not so easy. Not so easy. It requires serious preparation. Serious preparation. Yes. Yeah. And that's exactly why we need the Vanaprastha. Because the family attachments are very deep, very strong, especially between mother and child. So deep, because mothers sacrifice so much to bring that child up. So that connection is very deep, very powerful. So we have to move on to the Vanaprastha, to disentangle ourselves from these deep family attachments. And just the fact that the family attachments are deep does not mean we should not have any family. Good to understand. Very often people have these misconceptions. They think, family attachment so deep, dark, well, better I just avoid it somehow by hook or by crook. But no, detachment is more complete if it is based on previous attachment. Yeah. Let us understand, a person who has no money in the pocket, for him very easy to say, I don't have any desire to enjoy. He hasn't got any money to enjoy. Yes. But a person who has money in the pocket, or he had money in the pocket, and he consciously makes a decision not to enjoy, that is complete detachment and renunciation. I've seen it many times because I'm preaching a lot in poor countries, Bangladesh, Ukraine, and those countries at the moment. I can't really go there, too much turmoil. But standard of life, very simple. People are very simple and poor. So many devotees are there. But very often, then the time comes in their life where they think, oh, let me go to America. Maybe I can do better Krishna consciousness there. So, and then they go to America or to Germany, and then they get overwhelmed with material desires. And whoops, you never see them again. Yes, but in Ukraine or Bangladesh, they were so nice devotees every morning at Mangalarti, You would think, oh yeah, they're Paka devotees. But then when they have the opportunity to enjoy, all of a sudden they get completely overwhelmed. So that makes the point, that detachment, renunciation is more complete if it is based on previous attachment. Like often we Western devotees, we grew up in more fancy surroundings often. So if we consciously say, no, I don't want that, I give up my career, I don't want all this big money, that is more complete detachment and renunciation than somebody who doesn't even have the opportunity to enjoy, So same thing there in family life. If we actually go through it and deeply uproot the desire to enjoy it by serious practice within family life, that has more chance to actually uproot and burn out these seeds for sense gratification. Yeah. There's an analogy in the Bhagavatam. The farmer who plows the fields, he turns the soil upside down. So, and the weeds, for the seeds of the weeds come up to the surface. So unless these seeds are burned out, they will sprout again. Yeah. So we have to burn out these seeds for the desire to enjoy. Not just suppressing them, but we have to burn them out. Yeah. So in any case, let's go back to Antakalecha Mamiva. So to remember Krishna alone, not so easy. It requires serious preparation. And I dare say, for many, if not most devotees, it is a journey over several lifetimes. Not so cheap to enter Goloka Vrindavan, my God. The Krishna's divine abode where he performs the most confidential pastimes. Not so easy. Who do we think we are that we can just go there after this blabbering something for one lifetime? No. This requires a lot of internal work. Yeah, process of bhakti is a whole internal process. It's not, very often our practice is very external, We, in a very external, mechanical way, we go through the motions and we do our little rituals and pujas and this and that. But in the heart, there's not much actually happening, But process of bhakti is meant to transform the heart so that actually we can cultivate bhakti there. Whole deep internal work is required. So let us remember what is happening at the moment of death. So as we know, the soul is covered by a gross body made from earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then there's the subtle body made of mind, intelligence, thoughts, ego. So at the moment of death, the soul leaves behind the old and useless shell, the old and useless gross body, and on the subtle body of mind, intelligence, thoughts, ego, the soul travels to the next destination. right? According to the composition of the subtle body and according to our activities, whatever karma we have accumulated, and. So it's quite a complex thing. So that determines the next destination. So, and to go back to Godhead, the subtle body of mind, intelligence, thoughts, ego has to be completely transformed and spiritualized. So all the material impressions and desires and experiences and attachments, they all have to be replaced with spiritual impressions, spiritual experiences, spiritual desires, spiritual attachments. That's a big job. Because we have been carrying this subtle body for so many lifetimes with us. So many lifetimes. We can imagine it's like a computer chip with so much information collected over many lifetimes. So to really spiritualize that, to delete all these material impressions there and replace them with spiritual impressions, that's not so easy. Yeah. And we can see that the process of Krishna consciousness is completely targeting the subtle body. That's why Krishna always says, remember me, focus your mind on me, never forget me, he's hammering it, That's how the subtle body is transformed gradually. So, and we also have the nice verse 222 where Krishna says, we leave the old and useless clothes behind and we accept a new set of clothes. So we all have that experience, dhoti, sari, worn out. Okay, let's chuck it out. Get a new set. So that's actually all that happens at death. It's not such a horrifying thing, We simply leave the useless vehicle. We can also see it as that. Many of you are driving some vehicle, so we have that experience. It's our duty to maintain it nicely. But then we come to a point where this breaks down, that breaks down, another thing breaks down. And then we realize, no use. What's the use of investing so much time and energy and money to fix it? Next thing is breaking down. Okay, let's get rid of it. Let's get a new one. Same thing. This body is really like a vehicle. Yes. Oh yes, in my medical training I used to watch surgeries, how to put a hip joint, a new hip replacement. Oh, it's like in a car workshop, with hammer and drill and, oh my God, yes, yeah, it's really like in a mechanical car workshop. Yes. So, so that's what happens. So it's not so horrifying. We've all done it so many times already. So many times. We just don't remember, And because we have this attachment to the body and we are in ignorance, that's why we are so fearful. But as we confront ourselves with this topic, as we get some deeper insights, then we lose our fear and we realize, not so terrible, Yes. So also there's one purport in the Bhagavatam where Prabhupada says, actually we do not die. We simply enter an inert sleeping state, some unconscious state for some time, and then we start all over again, Yeah. Not so terrible, Yes. So now, maybe let me share one little interesting story, not from the Shastra, but from modern life in ISKCON, which really illustrates how this journey of transmigration really works. Have you heard the story of Raghava Das? Some of you, but maybe not everybody. So let's hear the story. When Prabhupada was in this world, he had one disciple called Raghava Das. This was in London. He was British, he was a brahmachari, he was a book distributor. And it so happened that one day, on the way back to the temple, they had a car accident and Raghava left his body. So everybody was, a little shocked and bewildered. Oh my God, Raghava left his body. So devotees wrote a message to Prabhupada informing him Raghava Prabhu left his body. But Prabhupada, of course, he was not bewildered. He had the transcendental vision, no problem. He will simply move on. And Prabhupada said he will continue in his next life. And that's exactly what happened. So the soul, which was there in Raghava Das's body, took birth in an Indian Mataji's body, also in London. Her name is Ratnavali Devi Dasi. She is a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Churu Swami Maharaj. So from a British man's body to an Indian Mataji's body. Yes, and through astrology you can prove that it is the same soul. And also Ratnavali Mataji, she took birth in a devotee family. So that's what Prabhupada says. If we don't make it in one life, we take birth in a devotee family, we continue where we left off. So from a small, young age, she had this strong attraction to Krishna consciousness. And then when she got a little older, she had often dreams repeating, which were indicating activities from previous life. So we may also have this when we have some dreams which come again and again. They often go back to some activities and experiences in previous lifetime. So in her dreams, she could see all different activities she did when she was in Raghava Das's body. And in London, there's also one devotee who knows the art of putting people under hypnosis. And in regression, they can remember their previous life. So Ratnavali Mataji did this. And she remembered so many episodes when she was Raghava. So, in ISKCON now, it's a pretty clearly established fact that yes, Ratnavali Mataji was Raghava Prabhu in her previous life. And also in Bhaktivedanta Manor outside of London, there's many devotees who knew Raghava. Actually, on my last visit there, I spoke to the driver who had the car accident. He is still alive. He's a Prabhupada disciple. He didn't get killed in the accident. Yes. So, and when Ratnavali Mataji speaks to some of these Prabhupada disciples who knew Raghava very well, then she has that feeling, yes, we know each other. Yes. So we may also have that experience, that we meet somebody for the first time, but somehow immediately we can connect, and we feel like we know each other for 30 years. So this often goes back to previous life. Yes. Yes. So now, when His Holiness Bhakti Churu Swami Maharaj heard the story for the first time, he asked Ratnavali Mataji a question. What would be the most obvious thing to ask? What do you think? Any suggestions? What's the most obvious thing to ask? Huh? Come on, just suggest something. Yes. What the hell happened? You know, you were in a British man's body, brahmachari, now you're in Indian Mataji's body. So who did you remember at the moment of death? How did this go on? Right? Most obvious thing to ask. So Ratnavali Mataji researched that question a bit. She talked to all the Prabhupada disciples who knew Raghava very well. And then they remembered, oh yeah, Monday to Friday he was traveling on book distribution. Then on the weekend he came back to the temple, he was serving in the kitchen, and there was an Indian Mataji there serving in the kitchen. So now you're laughing. You think, oh, he must have had some little affair there, some attraction to her. But no, Raghava was a very strict brahmachari. Oh, so strict. He didn't allow himself to be attracted to any woman. But there, it was the opposite in their relationship. There was always some tension there. They were quarreling. And that was enough for Raghava to come back in an Indian Mataji's body. So as we say, attraction and aversion are the two sides of the same coin. So not only attraction binds us, but aversion too. Yes, we tend to forget that, even though it is in the Bhagavad Gita, you know. There's verses describing that the aversion has to be given up to. Yes, so that is good to understand, that aversions also occupy a space in the mind, you know, a material aspect of the mind. We can't go back to Goloka Vrindavan with such kind of luggage, you know? Yes, we carry a lot of luggage there, all kinds of conditionings. We think, oh, this is my nature. But usually what we think is my nature is not my nature as spirit soul. It's my luggage, my conditioning, and that we have to dissolve and leave behind. Yes. So what we think is my nature is not my nature as spirit soul. Our nature as spirit soul is something completely different. Yes. It's just the layers of conditioning covering the soul, and we think it to be my nature, you know, but we have to dissolve it and work through all these things. So with aversions, no chance to enter Goloka Vrindavan, you know. Yes. So good to know this, because I mean, I'm not sure what's happening here in Ravet, but at least in other places and at least in the Western world, I hope you don't mind me saying that, but sometimes brahmacharis develop certain aversions towards women, towards married life. It's all Maya. You know, better be careful. If a brahmachari develops aversion towards women, next life, woman's body. So you better watch out. Or 10 kids. Yes, aversions are not the solution. Not the solution. And Raghava is demonstrating this. Yes, yes. Yes. So now a couple more interesting things. That Ratnavali Mataji, she took birth with some birthmarks. Babies often have some birthmarks. She has one birthmark on the forehead and one birthmark across the belly. So before I met Krishna consciousness, for some time I was working with early born babies, treating them and helping them to develop through reflexes and. It's a whole big science. So, and I remember one day I was in a big university clinic there for early born babies, and I had this whole box with all these babies in front of me, and one baby had some birthmarks. So I was always inquisitive. I was wondering, why does one baby have birthmarks, other babies don't have birthmarks? There must be some reason, can't be coincidence, right? So I asked a senior professor who was also in the room there, and I asked him, why does this baby have birthmarks? And his answer was, nobody knows, babies have these things. That's his answer. Nobody knows. Babies have these things. But we can give a better answer. So why does Ratnavali Mataji have birthmarks? Any of you knows? The accident. Exactly on those places, Raghava had this trauma. He had a trauma on the head, trauma across the belly. And these traumas, very clear. When we leave our body with a traumatic impact, in a car accident, then the mind thinks, oh, my head, oh, my belly. So, and these impressions on the mind take the soul to the next womb of a mother. And already in the womb of the mother, the soul still contemplates, or the mind contemplates, oh, my head, oh, my belly. And already in the womb, this contemplation forms birthmarks. Pretty interesting. So that's a medical proof how the soul goes from one body to another on the subtle body of mind, intelligence, and thought, ego. And all these impressions we take to the next destination. Yes. Wow. Actually, in this book, Vanaprastha Ashram, Meeting Death with Joy, there I put the whole story of Raghava and Ratnavali in there. And I actually sent the manuscript to Ratnavali Mataji to check, just to make sure I tell the right thing. I always do that. So, and I've been corresponding with her. I never met her in person, but I asked her for permission to tell her story in my humble preaching efforts. And she said, yeah, no, sure, no problem. And she was saying, oh, I have the death report, the post-mortem, we call that. Do you want to have that too? Do you want to include that in the book too? I said, no need. I believe you, But she has the report of Raghava's death, And there she can see, she can verify, yes, his injuries are exactly where I have the birthmarks. Exactly. Yes. So when I heard this story the first time, some 20 years ago or something, it actually really struck me. It brought Bhagavad Gita to life. That it is not something which is just written in the book, but no, this is how it happens. Whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whether you're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, this is how it goes on. No other way. Very powerful. And it has the power to really shake us up a little bit, that we realize, my God, time is ticking. We have only so much time left in this body. You know, we never know when the moment comes. We have to be ready at any moment. Yeah. So we have to seriously make an effort to work through all our attachments and aversions and throw them overboard, dissolve them, and really develop that relationship with Krishna. Because basically at the moment of death, we are tested. Which relationship is most important to us? Is the relationship with Krishna the most important relationship? Is Krishna the most important personality in my life? Or are there any other relationships which are more important than my relationship with Krishna? Are there any personalities which are more important to me than Krishna? So, and if there's any more important relationships, we have to come back and we have to do another round in this material world, finishing off this more important business. That's the way it goes. So if we lie on our deathbed and we think, oh, we lament, oh, I didn't see my granddaughter getting married. Well, then maybe we have to come back just to see that, how our granddaughter gets married. Not sure if it's really worthwhile, you know. Also, there's one more interesting thing. By the way, when should I stop? 9:30? Yes, you will not jump up at 9:15 and all run to Prasadam or something? No? Okay, that gives us a bit more time. Good. Yes. There's one other interesting thing. I saw some pictures of Raghava, of Ratnavali Mataji, and of this Indian Mataji who served in the kitchen. By the way, Ratnavali Mataji went and met this lady who served in the kitchen. She's still alive. I don't know much about that meeting, but it must have been pretty unusual, you know, meeting the person who you had an aversion to in your previous life, and that's why you're back now. My God, you know, would have been a pretty interesting meeting, right? So in any case, back to the pictures. So when I saw these three pictures, I couldn't help but laughing. So why did I laugh? Yeah. There was some similarities there. You could see that Ratnavali Mataji, she has some features of Raghava. Yes. Eyes, nose, whatever. And then the other features are there of this Indian Mataji who served in the kitchen and he had an aversion to. Oh my God, it was ridiculous. So whatever features we have here all, this is not a coincidence. Yes, this goes back to the moment of death. There's some portion of our features from previous body in there, and some of a person who we were attached or averse to. Yeah. So now, why does Swarnavali Mataji have some features of Raghava? Why is that? Anybody knows? Why of Raghava? Contemplation. Yeah. Exactly. We are all so attached to our own body, and especially the face. You know, we identify so much with our face. With no other part of the body, we identify as much as with the face. Feet, not so important, you know, what my feet look like. But face, oh my God, you know. Every day we look so many times in the mirror. Oh yes, very handsome, very beautiful. Oh, I'm getting old, you know. So many times, every day. Oh, my tilak, yes, you know. Yes, so with no other part of the body are we identifying as much as with the face. And it's interesting to see, especially in the human species, very rare to find two people who look the same. Very rare. There's billions and trillions of people on this planet, but everybody looks a little bit different, you know? So this is Krishna's trick, just to deepen our bodily identification, to make the whole game a little more difficult, you know? Like when you look at the ants or the mosquitoes, I don't think there's so many different facial features amongst the mosquitoes, you know? At least I can't see that, you know? And I think they don't see it either, you know? But human being, you know? So different. I mean, I'm traveling all over the planet, you know, Africa, so many places. So everybody just looks a little different. Krishna never runs out of ideas, you know, how to make each and every person look different, you know. Yeah. Yeah, so that just makes the whole thing more difficult, you know. Yeah. So that's why we usually have some features from previous body and then some other features from somebody who we were attached or averse to. So now often, you know, we see that children look like their father or mother, right? So, and usually we say it's genetic. But no, it's not genetic. It's that these two were attached to each other in their previous life. And that's why they take birth in the same family. You know? That's the reason. That's the reason. Because if it was genetic, then every child should look like their parents. But they don't. Sometimes they completely look similar, sometimes completely different. So it's not the genes, it's not genetic, you know? It's because of this attachment in previous life, you know? Yes. So now we still have some little time to mention a couple of things that to remember Krishna is actually not in our control. Right? We know Sarvasya Jamridi Sanivisto, Matasmita Jnanam Apurnam Cha. So Krishna says, from me comes knowledge, remembrance, forgetfulness. So actually remembrance comes from Krishna. He has to be, you know, willing to appear on the level of our mind at the moment of death. We can't force our way to remember him. you know. Yes. So, and according to how much we sincerely develop the relationship, feelingly call out to him, so that may, prompt him to appear on the level of our mind. Or maybe not, In this regard, I want to share a couple little stories. One about my humble self. When I was a very new devotee, was just 6 months in the temple, I had to get a little surgery done, and I was put in anesthesia. So, and I had heard, of course, yes, we have to remember Krishna alone at the moment of death. So I thought, okay, let me try and remember Krishna at that moment when I fall asleep. But then when I woke up, I was shocked to realize that I didn't remember Krishna. And I realized that was one of my first realizations. Not so easy to remember Krishna. If I can't even remember Krishna at that moment, some not life-threatening little surgery was a minor little thing. If I can't remember Krishna at that time, what to speak of leaving one's body? That's a little bit more bewildering. Yes, so this was one of my first realizations. But then I know a different story. One Mataji in Ukraine, before the war started, I was very involved there for over 20 years, but now I can't really go there. So, this Mataji in Ukraine, seriously practicing for at least 20, 25 years, and one day she had a stroke. And she was paralyzed on the right side, which means left side of the brain is damaged, which means memory and speech are completely lost. So when she had the stroke, she could not remember anything. Not a single word of her language. She could not even remember her name. Absolutely nothing. It was like a deleted computer program. Everything was gone. Absolutely everything. So, but brain has a good capacity to recover. That's what I used to do, treat people like that. And after some time, it all came back. Memory, speech, everything came back. So then when I met her, I asked her, what was it like not to even remember your name? And not a single word in your language. You can't say anything. You don't remember anything. Everything is simply blank. What was it like? And she gave an interesting answer. She said, yeah, it was a little bewildering, but one thing I remembered, the Maha Mantra. And I was simply chanting in my mind, and I knew everything would be okay. So from a medical point of view, this is a miracle. How can a person who is not even remembering their own name, how can they remember the full Maha Mantra? It's a miracle. No explanation. No explanation from a medical point of view. But of course, we have the explanation that, yeah, Krishna, for his seriously practicing devotee, he appears to reassure her, don't worry, you will be all right. Just chant. Everything will be fine. Yes. So yeah, remembrance is not only in our hands. We can try our best to seriously develop the relationship, but ultimately it's up to Krishna. One other interesting point is that people often say, well, I'm not afraid so much of death but I'm more afraid of the pain that comes along, right? The pain, we are so fearful of pain, and as soon as we have some little toothache, we pop some painkillers and you know. So now one interesting thing is that the pain is an experience on the level of the mind, not on the level of the soul. The soul doesn't experience pain. It's the mind. Pleasure, pain, happiness, distress. That's all happening on the level of the mind. So, and the way the mind functions is that if the mind is strongly focused on something else, strongly, intensely, we can overcome the level of pain. That's how the mind works. Let me share one little story from my own life before I met Krishna consciousness in my youth, teenager. That's quite a while ago, 50 years ago or something. I was playing in a handball team, and I was the goalkeeper. Because I'm tall, they made me the goalkeeper. So, and one day we had a very intense, exciting match. It was not just training, it was we were playing against another city in Germany. So, and in this game, I broke my little finger. It still has some funny lump there. And it was really broken. Ooh, I could feel it crack. And actually the finger was standing off to the side. It was really broken. But because I had gloves on, I didn't see it. And I was so focused on winning the game, which we did, that I kept playing with this broken finger for about 20 minutes. And I did not feel any pain whatsoever. Nothing. Because I was fully focused on the game. And only when the game was finished and I took off my gloves and I saw my finger, oh my God. It was all blue and swollen, standing to the side. You know, because I kept holding the boards with this hand, with this finger. So, and then the pain hit. Oh, so painful. But before, I didn't feel anything. Nothing. Not anything at all. You know? So, this makes, and there's other stories similar, you know, let's say a mother and child are injured, so the mother will fully focus, I have to save my child. Even if she's injured, she will not feel any pain because she's fully focused on saving her child's life, you know. So it's a well-known fact in war times when soldiers are injured and they still carry their friend there over the shoulder and they don't feel any pain, you know. Yeah. So, understanding that, we realize death is not only a test which relationship is most important to us, but it's also a test how much we absorb our mind in Krishna. Yes, yes. And then we overcome the level of pain. Yes. That should be the absorption, you know, intense absorption in remembering Krishna. Any of you have met His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami? Anybody met him? Nobody. Somebody? Yes. Yeah, he was quite an amazing personality. I knew him personally. So he set that example. Yeah. When he left his body, that was 2004 or something. Actually, His Holiness Vadana Swami, he spent the last 6 weeks with him. And afterwards, after Maharaj left his body, Rana Swami gave a 5-hour Sunday feast lecture in Chaupadi. Any of you have heard this lecture? Few people. You should find it on the internet. It's there somewhere. It's quite an amazing lecture. Yeah, for 5 hours he was sharing all his experiences he had accompanying His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami on this final journey. So, and he is sharing there how in a very small circle of devotees, they were deeply absorbing themselves in reading Chaitanya Charitamrita and in the evenings kirtan with deep absorption. And Bhaktitirtha Swami came to the point where he called out in joy, in bliss, life cannot be better than this. For nothing in the world I would want to exchange my life to any other situation. Yeah, cannot be better than this. Maharaj was so blissful, even though from external point of view, he was in such a suffering condition. He had already one leg amputated. He was so skinny, had cancer everywhere. So he must have been in so much pain, actually. The doctors were shocked. How is it possible that a person in that situation is so blissful? No painkillers, nothing. So yeah, he set that example, how if we absorb ourselves in Shravanam Kirtanam, we can be so blissful. Yes, yes. So, and that's how he prepared for leaving. Deep absorption, being ecstatic. And there is a statement, I think it's Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it says that a pure devotee, when he faces seeming distress, actually it's not suffering for him, it's bliss. Why? Because a devotee takes every opportunity, every calamity as a golden opportunity to take more deeply shelter of Krishna. And then Krishna reveals himself. Krishna becomes tangibly present. And then we become blissful. Yes. And we completely overcome this level of pain, happiness, distress. We overcome that. Yeah. So that's the ideal way to leave one's body. Being deeply focused and absorbed in Shravanam Kirtanam. And of course, we need some help for this. All our life, we need good association. And especially in this last phase, very important phase. Yeah. I'm describing all these things in that book. Yes. By Krishna's arrangement, I have accompanied quite a few personalities in this last phase. My own parents also. I was very much praying to Krishna, oh, please give me the notice when I have to quickly fly back to Germany and be with my parents before they leave. Because in my lifestyle, I may not even catch the moment, I may come too late, But because I had that strong desire, by Krishna's mercy, I managed to catch the moment, And I immediately parked all my preaching. Actually, when my mother left, I was scheduled to visit Nasik. I just arrived, and then I got the notice that my mother has COVID, and I knew I have to fly back. Nobody will take care of her. So I said, I gave one morning class in Nashik and said, sorry, I have to leave. And next flight I took back to Germany, But then later I came back after she left. I returned and did the programs and so on. Yeah, so I canceled all my programs and flew back to Germany with both of my parents, my father, my mother. And I kept them at home. I helped them to focus. I helped them to let go and move out. And both my parents had a glorious departure, even though they were not regularly practicing devotees. They were very favorable. They had been to India and many times. My father, for the last 20 years of his life, he went every year to India for 6 weeks, traveling all around India, South India especially. He was always saying to me, "You don't even know India, you only go to Vrindavan and Mayapur. Why don't you go to South India?" You know, and those days I hadn't been there yet, you know. That's, yeah, almost 20 years ago that my father left. Yeah, so, and just 2 hours before my father left, he was talking about Kerala, how beautiful it is in Kerala. I'm pretty sure that's where he's now, you know? Yeah. It was almost like he was informing me where he would go. So in a couple of weeks, I'll go first time to Kerala. So maybe I'll meet him there in a different body. Yes. Yeah, so, and I always highly recommend devotees to really perform this service to the parents, you know, to help them to leave their bodies. This is such an important service. It makes a relationship perfect with all its imperfections. But if we can do that service for a person, it makes it perfect, you know, yes. Even though, you know, in the book there's a whole chapter on what to consider when somebody leaves, how to actually really support somebody. Because it's such an important service, and what's the use of all our preaching if we don't know what to do in this last 10 days, you know? And there is one thing, we don't have time to mention too much, but one thing I want to mention, and I hope this will not bewilder you. But in the Bhagavatam, there's one statement where Prabhupada says, a glorious death is when the family members don't even know we are leaving. That's a glorious death. So, if our parents are practicing devotees, not so good if they're taken care of by family members, because that family relationship is so deep, so strong. So if we are practicing devotees, we should not be taken care of by family members, because it's so difficult to remember Krishna alone when you have your son or your grandson there next to you. Impossible. So for the at least last 2 weeks or something, the family members should be invisible. Yes, invisible. Otherwise, how can you remember Krishna alone? It's a different story when the parents are not devotees, like in my situation. My parents were not practicing devotees. They were not even fully vegetarian. They still were eating fish and chicken and all this, you know, but at least red meat they gave up. So in that situation, it's good if there's a devotee there helping them, you know? Yes, because they will not go back to Godhead in this lifetime anyway. And then better to have the association of devotees, you know, even if it's family members. But if the parents are practicing devotees, we should consider these things. Who do I want to have around me? Yes, I'm preparing. As much as we can. Of course, ultimately it's up to Krishna, but we still have to make plans. Where do I want to leave my body one day? Who do I want to have around me? When Kadambakana Swami left a couple of years ago, at some stage he said, no more ladies around me. And I thought, good, that's what I'm going to take up in my list here. And the final stage, no more men around me. Yes, because it's man-woman attraction so deep. Yes, so deep. No more persons of the other gender around us. Yeah. So there's so many things to consider. Yes. Sometimes people say, well, Krishna has his plan, I just rely on Krishna's plan. No. We have to make plans and then see whether Krishna agrees with our plan, or maybe he suggests another plan. And we can't be attached to our plan, but ultimately accept Krishna's plan. But the fact that maybe our plan will not come through does not mean we should not make plans. We have to make plans. And especially concerning about leaving one's body. Yeah, there's a whole chapter there, what to consider. Very important, Yes, because we want to try and create the best surroundings, best environment to really remember Krishna alone, I've accompanied quite a few devotees in this final journey. And another really important thing is, morphine, this medicine morphine, you heard about this? Yes? This is the standard thing which is given to people in the hospitals when they're about to leave. And it's a drug. It's a drug. Yeah. And last year, I accompanied one Mataji who I know for 35 years, So I especially went to where she was and I accompanied her. She had cancer spread all over. And usually when devotees are fearful, then they want morphine. They demand morphine. But morphine puts you into this illusory state of happiness that you think, this is all pretty good. Life could go on like this forever. And then you cannot let go. You want to stay. Yeah. I could witness for this Mataji how difficult it was for her to let go, because she took such high doses of morphine for quite a few months. And once I remember, she was leaning back in her bed and she said, this is so nice. This could go on forever. Yes. And then people start enjoying the situation. Everybody comes, is so nice to you, gives you all the attention, and you're like the queen there, and and you're in this illusory state of happiness through this morphine. Very dangerous thing for devotees. They should not take this. From what I've heard, all those devotees who took morphine, and I know a few, I was not there all the time, but I talked to people, they usually have a difficult time to move on, because they feel so happy. It's all pretty nice, yes. So by the power of the mind, one can stay in this body for quite some time, just by the power of the mind. If a person wants to stay, then it will be more of a struggle, But if we say, okay, Krishna, I want to put my life in your hand, please take me to the next service situation, wherever it may be, I'm ready to go. So much more smooth. My parents had such a smooth departure, no medicines. When my father left his body, also cancer, of course, the doctor came, and my father said, "Doctor? I don't need a doctor. Tell him to go." And then the doctor stood there in the door and said, "Yeah, but maybe you need some medicines." "Medicines? What for medicines? I don't need any medicines. Get out," So that was how my father left, no medicines, completely conscious. Oof, talking about Kerala, and off he went. On ISKCON morning, that ISKCON in September, which is before Vamanadeva's appearance, he left on that ISKCON in the morning. Very auspicious. Once we do the service for devotees to accompany them in this final stage, this gives so much realization. And you realize it's actually not such a big deal. It's like traveling. You sit on the departure gate and wait for the flight. And maybe the flight is a little delayed, So that's what it is. You're simply ready, you wait for the onward journey, and all right, whenever Krishna picks me up, so it's not such a big deal, Yes. Yes. Maybe, I'm a little afraid that I'm running out of time here. Let me quickly say a few words about each book. I'm not sure, should we ask for questions? Or maybe no. Let me just quickly say something about the books. So, Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. This is all about women. We women play a very important role. We have a very powerful Shakti, and we are meant to use that Shakti to empower the men and not compete with the men. I'm sure the men like to hear that one, right? Yes. But now man-woman equality, we women compete with the men. And the men don't like that. Maybe you ladies noticed it. Yes. It actually makes them weak. It disempowers them. So this book is such an important topic. Nobody talks about these things because it's a controversial topic, this man-woman equality, right? But Prabhupada says it all. He says it all. But we can't so easily accept because we are so conditioned by this man-woman equality. So any woman who wants to have harmonious relationships with men in her life, please read this book. And every man who wants to get the empowerment of a woman should also read this book. And many temples in India, they use this book as a handbook for brahmachari training, even though the whole book is about women. Because the men have to understand that this man-woman equality puts the whole human society upside down. That's what you realize. And it touches upon all the hot topics in regards to women. Women being guru, women giving class, women leading kirtan, and. So many hot issues we have there in ISKCON. And I'm trying to give a balanced presentation of these topics. It's good for preaching, because Bhagavatam is full of strong statements about women, that women are less intelligent, and. So we have to know how to present this. Yes. You find it all in the book. Yeah. And it really helps to improve marriages. In fact, it has saved quite a few marriages. So if you know anybody who struggles in their marriage, it may be a good gift, you know. Yeah. Then we have sheltering relationships. So this is all about the importance of having a counselor. So of course, you may be familiar with that idea, but very often we accept a counselor only as formality. But deep in the heart, we are not taking shelter. No, we are not. And just, okay, externally as formality, we go along with it. So when you read this book, you will be convinced that without having a counselor and eventually becoming one for others, we actually cannot make advancement. Yeah, we will stay in our comfort zone and we become stagnant and we can't move forward. Very important topic. We have lost a lot of wonderful devotees because we did not realize that just having Diksha Guru or Shiksha Guru not enough. We need this well-wishing friend who guides us, who we want to be corrected by. Only then it is a sheltering relationship, if we want to be corrected by this person. Then the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. Oh, title speaks for itself. False ego is so subtle. In the name of Krishna consciousness, we can very nicely feed and boost the false ego, massage each other's false egos. It's all happening, you know, yes. So, very useful, very subtle. We often miss it. We don't even realize, you know. There's so many tips how to recognize, how to subdue and dissolve the false ego. And there's a whole chapter on chanting the holy name. How to chant that we really receive the benefit and empowerment which the holy name carries. Because we know, Trinada Pisunichena, you know, so only if we are more humble than a blade of grass, we can actually chant. So, false ego, holy name, powerful combination. Then we have entering the Grihastha Ashram. This is a handbook for matchmaking. How to actually see that a boy and a girl are compatible for marriage. Here in India, we need a bit of help with this. We only look at caste and money. You know, we lost that art, how to match people. And as a result of that, the divorce rate in India is increasing. Oh yes, people often after 6 months, they get divorced. Why? Because very often they are not given enough time to talk about things. You know, we still do things like 5,000 years ago, that, you know, people just meet for 15 minutes and then they get married and the parents make the deal. But there's so many things to talk about. So in this list, in this book, you find a whole list of over 200 topics which should be discussed with a cool head in the presence of a parent, counselor, matchmaker, whatever. We have to talk because there's so many different moods and ways how to practice Krishna consciousness, right? We can be on the very strict and committed side. We can be on the casual and liberal side. So that has to match. Otherwise there will be frustration, you know. So, and this list is not my list. It's not a German list. It's actually from Bhaktivedanta Manor in London. And it's a huge Indian community. That's the list they use in their matchmaking committee. And I find this the best list. And it's an Indian list. So it's perfect for all of you. Yeah. And then we have family life as an ashram, secrets of success. How to create this culture of bhakti in our home. Many married devotees' home life we cannot even call it an ashram. It's not a suitable place for cultivating bhakti. We need some training and education in this, but often we don't take any education. We just get married, or we were married, we join ISKCON, but we don't adjust our lifestyle, our habits, to really make it into an ashram, which means a suitable place for cultivating bhakti. And because many devotees' home life is not an ashram, that's what gives the Grihastha ashram a bad name. Then everybody thinks, oh, these Grihasthas, you can't make advancement. But no, there's nothing wrong with the Grihastha ashram. Most of our previous acharyas were Grihasthas, Advaita Acharya, so many others, but their family life was an ashram. But ours is not. That's the problem. So this helps us to understand what it takes that our family life is actually a conducive place for cultivating bhakti. So many practical things are there, all based on the Bhagavatam. It is all in the Bhagavatam, but we don't get the point, we don't understand. And there's also a whole chapter on physical intimacy in marriage. How to live this principle of no illicit sex life in marriage. There is a bit of confusion over this in ISKCON, and nobody talks about it, especially here in India. And people are at a loss how to make things work. So I did some research, and I came across interesting stories with Prabhupada, where he says things which most people haven't heard, because they're not in the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam gives the goal to strive for. But everything in Krishna consciousness is a gradual process. And on the one-to-one, Prabhupada was very clear in this, amazingly clear. But many people haven't heard this, And then they tried to artificially jump from one day to the other to the highest platform, and that creates marriage problems. Whole big topic. So I dedicated quite a bit of a chapter to this. And before I published it, I sent it to several initiating gurus, just to make sure I'm presenting the thing in the balanced way. And they gave the blessings. Because sannyasi gurus, they cannot so easily talk about these things. And then the last one, the Vanaprastha ashram, meeting death with joy. So there is two parts in it. One is all about the Vanaprastha ashram, and then part two is all about death. They belong together. Once we get insights what death is all about, it becomes very clear. Wow, I need this Vanaprastha ashram to really prepare, So Vanaprastha is for at that stage in life when the kids are almost established. And then we should move on. Ideally the daughter should be married, but the cultivation, the meditation, the planning should start 20 years before. So sometimes people say, oh, I'm only 38, I don't need the Vanaprastha ashram book. No, you need, because you should prepare and plan. Actually, one devotee told me that Radhanath Swami once gave a little talk on a Vivaha Yagya. And he said, if we enter married life without a clear plan how to move out, already failure. That's what he said. I didn't hear it personally, but people told me. That's what it's like. Even when we get married, we should have a clear plan that I'm going to move out at some stage. Not leaving my wife and get divorced. No, we both accept the Vanaprastha ashram. It's a team thing. Prabhupada says it. It's not that a husband and wife have to separate. There's so many wrong ideas. You know, that people think the husband puts on wife and leaves overnight. No. A husband puts on saffron and leaves overnight. No. That's not Vanapasta. That's irresponsibility in the name of Vanapasta. But it's a team thing. Yeah. And there's so many variations how we live it and, you know. So, but that's the thing. The young people should also get this education, because then they plan their life accordingly. Then the man will not get married when they're 48 and start with babies. You know, in the West, I often come across this, that people stay in the brahmachari ashram for 18, 20 years, and then when they're 48, they realize, maybe I'm really not properly situated, and then they get married and start with babies. You know, so they missed already the boat for the Vanapasta ashram. You know? Yes. So Krishna's system is perfect. He gives the perfect timeline. So a man should make the decision not much later than 30. Because then when he's 50, 55, kids are established, then he can move out, you know, and get back into the brahmachari mood, basically. Keeping things simple, 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 and deeply absorbing oneself in spiritual practice. Doing all these exciting things in Krishna consciousness, which we couldn't do when the kids were small, you know. And then we have such a wealth of life experience to share, you know, and preach. Oh, yeah, so important topic. So now, if any of you want to get some books, these last 4 books are 350 rupees each. The first 2 are 300 each. Many people take the whole set. That comes to 2,000 rupees. You can pay cash or with QR code. So now, as you see, there's actually not many books here. There's only a pile of Bhagavatams. So actually, yesterday, I already ran out of books. 10 minutes after distributing them, they were all gone. So now I've started making a list of orders. So now the system is, because these books I have to hang on to as my samples to take orders. So if anybody wants some books, we put your name on the list, we tick which books you want. If you trust me, you please pay me already now. And then I send another 1, 2, 3 boxes, whatever is required, with exactly those books which are ordered and paid for. That's my system, because for me, impossible to understand how many copies of each title I need. So I just send some boxes up front, and then I take orders, and I have an assistant in Mayapur. I send him a message on Wednesday when I leave, tell him to send these books here, and then everybody gets their books in about 2 weeks or something, you know? Okay? All right. So maybe we just leave it at that. If you want to know more about the topic of death, well, get the book, and I'm sure you'll find all the answers to your questions there. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaura Premanandi. Thank you. So let me announce tonight, I will offer this big program here on the topic of power of consciousness. And then tomorrow morning, we have again a topic-related morning class with the topic of envy, the main obstruction within relationships. I think that's also relevant for all of us. Envy, we have it all. So please come back tonight, tomorrow. And tomorrow evening, we have a program 4 to 6 about matchmaking, how to choose a compatible spouse. This is for boys and girls and parents, matchmakers, guardians, anybody who wants to help people settle in harmonious, compatible marriages. So you young fellas, don't be shy. No harm to educate yourself, even if you're not planning to get married tomorrow, no harm to know, yes. Why not educate ourselves, yes. If we are firmly situated in our ashram, in brahmachari ashram, it will not bewilder us to hear about how to get married. Everybody should know to guide others, yes. So, I was in Nagpur before. There the brahmacharis also came to that session, yes, because they're guiding others, If we say, oh, I'm a brahmachari, I don't want to hear about this, hey, come on, let's get a bit mature here, Yes, we have to give guidance to people, Yes, isn't it? Yes, yes. And maybe it will be relevant to us one day, You never know, yeah. You wouldn't believe, I often have brahmacharis in saffron coming up to me, asking me, oh, Mataji, can you help me to change ashrams? I don't have anybody to talk about this. My authorities are all pushing me to stay in the brahmachari ashram. I have nobody to talk to about this. Yes, I had it several times. And then I tell them, okay, you read first this book, you read then that book, and I stay in touch with them. I guide them through the whole journey, and now one of the boys, he is happily married now, I helped him to find somebody and, yes. Yes, so we have to be a little mature. If a person really feels it's time for me to settle in the next phase of life, we have to be supportive and not, oh no, you should stay in the ashram. Brahmachari is the only way to live. Only brahmacharis go back to God. Well, Raghava didn't, We may think, well, he's a Prabhupada disciple, he's a brahmachari, he sacrifices his life on book distribution, died on the battlefield. Sure, he would go back to Godhead. But no, he didn't. And Prabhupada knew it. Yes. The aversions. Yes. Okay, thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Samaveda Bhaktavrinda ki. Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Yes, and please do me a favor. Come now if you want any books, and don't wait until after prasadam, because I also want to have my breakfast, so I'm not going to wait here for you until you come back or something. So it has to be now, okay? So, let us get set up there on the table.